Gary, would it help if I had something to put underneath that just to set you up a little higher? Like even a cushion?
I think, where's your mic on here?
I forget. I'm never paying attention to. Oh, the mic's right there. It is clear today that indigenous and non-indigenous people are coming together to speak up for Mother Earth. No longer can we ignore the destruction to land, water, and air that has resulted from the imbalance of a value structure that disrespects the Earth as a living, breathing being, Mother Earth. The country we call America today is established on land stolen from First Nations people who innately understood their role as stewards of Mother Earth. However, upon contact of the first Europeans, this way of knowing, indigenous ways of knowing, how to live in balance and harmony is clearly almost extinct. In order to move forward, we must remember the lessons of the past and make the necessary changes to live in balance and harmony with Mother Earth and with one another once again. The first European invaders' justification for stealing the land from the indigenous inhabitants of Turtle Island was based on a paradigm of gross national products, one that viewed the earth as a commodity to be utilized for one's personal gain, regardless of the devastation it brings to plants, animals, mineral, and human life. Native people were thought to be savages because they did not hold the same Christian beliefs as their European brothers. Historical events including violence, genocide, removing indigenous children from their homes and forcing them into boarding schools with the intent of civilizing them has continued to cause serious challenges for Native people and their descendants. Colonization of indigenous territories and the systematic stealing of native land has become a common practice. Today, indigenous and non-indigenous people are speaking up. Land and water rights are at the forefront of indigenous activism today. Even as this film is being produced, thousands of indigenous people are addressing the issues that threaten the little bits of land that they have left and the life of the planet in general. Plastics, fossil fuels, chemicalized foods, water and air pollution directs our attention to a gross lack of respect for the earth. So where do we look for answers? Perhaps those answers lie within each and every one of us as we wake up and recognize that we are all in this together.
Dielu, Leke, Frank Graciel, Digumdia, Galei, Wailoshi, Gumtano, Dela, Louise Jackson, that's my mother. DeGoy, George Holmes, that's my father. DeGoo, Ethel Hufford Jackson, that's my grandmother. The LL, that's Edmund Jackson Sr., that's my grandfather. Diama, Minnie George, that's my dad's mother. The Baba, that's Washoe George, that's my father's father. Wakalele, Digum, Hamoyokida, Di Wigiaita, Di Bipta, Di Isho Tolietia, Dinga. Greetings, you're in the Washoe country. This is the land of the Washoe. This is Lake Tahoe, Dawa Aga, which means edge of the lake. We're right by Cave Rock, which is a sacred place to the Washoes, and it's a beautiful lake. And this has been our homeland, was our homeland for thousands and thousands of years, 10,000 years or more. This is a part of the story. What we have here, what you see here, and the Washoes don't physically own the land anymore. In our first contact with the European, we begin to realize the difference between us and them and the importance of our land to us as people. But we had no defense against it because we didn't know the laws and regulations in which they operated. And that's in existence today, right now, with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, who has set up an agency set up to protect Indian people from having their land stolen. Yet, the Bureau of Indian Affairs is set up on the alien ideology of power, money, religion, and all of this thing that helps them, and profiteering, which has been the main reason that I got interested in protecting my land, is because they offered me for a piece of land that I recently inherited. They offered me pennies when the profiteering people who were putting right-of-ways across my allotted land that I recently inherited, they're making millions.
Hungameheji, Washu de Moket Letle Kashanati, Digum Dia Dr. Lisa Graciel. I'd like to introduce myself to you in the proper way, meaning that I am introducing myself in a way that recognizes the lineages that I come from. Dila, my mother, Clinta Graciel, she's from a European background. We also have Scot-Irish in us, and some Spanish, and a number of other cultural groups that are kind of a mix, our Heinz 57, so to speak. Dagoy on my father's side. My father is Washoe, Paiute, and Quechan, all three Indian tribes, and those tribes came together during the Indian boarding school era, where our grandparents are now, our grandparents intermarried with other tribes, and so many of us were mixed. So while my father is full-blood, he's three different tribes. And my mother is, while she's European, she's from many nations all across the world. So I'm the end result of all those that have gone before me, my ancestors, my relatives. I'm also a mother and a grandmother. I have daughters and I have grandchildren, young grandchildren at this time that I am spending quite as much time as I can with, because those are my future generations. And as a Native Indigenous person, I would like to say that, as a Native Indigenous person, understanding the values of the people that I grew up with, that the earth is alive, and that the earth is our mother and provides everything for us. With that understanding, I want to see that this earth is beautiful for generations to come, that it's beautiful for my grandchildren's grandchildren's grandchildren. That's why when we have sacred lands, and we say that a land or an area area is sacred. In being sacred means that we leave it alone. We respect it that much. We respect it enough to back away and to leave it sacred. And then we go there in ceremony for prayer and for special reasons and to remember. And then we go back to our home spaces, and those are the spaces that we plant and we cultivate and we drink the water. And then at times we will go back to these sacred spaces. So I want to thank you all for watching this film, and I hope to inspire the idea and the fact that we're all indigenous, we're all in this together, Digum Hiki Angahulel, and we all do make a difference by the choices that we make about how we live on the world with one another every day of our lives.
Mother Earth, its Father, Son, and the rain. My life is Mother Earth, its Father, Son, and the rain. Sol y la lluvia. Mi vida es madre tierra, es padre sol y la lluvia.
So the reason that I'm here is to talk about the indigeneity that's in each and every one of us. We're all indigenous. What I mean by saying that we are all indigenous is I'm saying that every single one of us has a genetic connection to a tribal group, to a group of people that at one point in your history lived in small, sustainable communities. And at one point, you contained the understanding that the earth is alive and provides everything that we need, seasonally, daily, yearly, the cycles. And when we live in balance and harmony with the seasonal cycles of the sun and the moon and the planets, then our body becomes acclimated to what's natural, and we reconnect with the very core of who we are. Indigenous people have known this for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And to be a well indigenous person, it means to be connected to our core. That's different for each and every one of us. it's important that we begin to recognize that we play an important role in the change that we want to see happen across the planet. So at the end of this film, I hope to inspire you to look within and determine what changes and what things can I do in order to bring a more, a greater impact on the world.
Desert woman, desert woman, desert woman, desert woman. Desert woman, so solid and strong. Desert woman, such beauty and song. Undiscovered treasure waiting to be found. Desert woman, such beauty, such song. Desert woman, desert woman, you dance your dance, you sing your dance songs. You follow your heart to love. Desert woman, so solid and strong. Desert woman, such beauty and song. Desert woman, desert woman, desert woman, desert woman.
So the four elementals that are represented on the medicine wheel are earth, fire, water, and air. Each one of these elementals are realities in our lives. Indigenous ceremonial practices bring us back to the knowing that earth, fire, water, and air are the very basic fundamentals of what's provided. And from there, we build everything that we have. I'm grateful to be alive and to be here on this earth today. I'm really, really grateful for all that Mother Earth has provided, from the shelter to our food, our housing, our clothing, all the things that we have, our cars. That's all provided by Mother Earth. And now we've come to a point in history where we have created enough junk, where it's time to make a paradigm shift in a way to live with the earth that respects the earth as a living, breathing being. So this is the message that we're bringing here today through this film. And I'm hoping that what we come away with is the question in our own mind: what is my purpose and why am I here? I want to talk a little bit about the medicine wheel. We We've all seen depictions of the medicine wheel on television, or maybe we've seen it somewhere, but the medicine wheel is a circle with 4 quadrants. And as you can see, the medicine wheel has 4 different representations. The famous Lakota medicine wheel comes in the 4 colors: red, white, black, and yellow, and those colors represent the earth, fire, water, and air. So, and the 4 directions: north, south, east, and west. Now, tribal cultures all over the world have depictions of medicine wheels. And those medicine wheels may have slightly varying differences in the representations based on the ecology of the land with which the people come from, because all of these things are subjective. The medicine wheel, however, I found as a counseling psychologist, was one of the most effective ways to reintroduce ourselves to the idea that we can heal ourselves. That we can heal ourselves, and that we all and each and every one of us have medicine inside of us. And we can find that medicine. We can find that medicine through regaining balance, even in a world that seems to be crazy out of balance today, in every way, from a social, political construct. We have environmental degradation happening on every continent across the globe, across Mother Earth, Turtle Island, all of these continents now. We're suffering because we're digging up the ground for oil, and we're running broadband wires through the earth, and we're drilling, and we're looking for precious metals and releasing toxins into our water sources. We're having to test our water and find alternative ways to clean our water now because we're contaminating so much of it. We're at a critical time in history. We're at a place where each and every one of us need to take our responsibility to make the changes that we need to make in order to maintain the beauty of Mother Earth for generations to come. So I'm introducing the idea of the medicine wheel for those of you who have not ever heard of the medicine wheel, and for those of you who have, I humbly, with all respect, recognize the fact that a lot of what I'm talking about is very pan-Indian. It's not tribal specific, because I can't reiterate enough that each tribal culture has a way to think about the world that is very specific to their locale. That's why the knowledge, the indigenous wisdom within every area across this planet is critical in gaining an understanding of how to most live in balance and harmony with the earth. So tribal and indigenous knowledge is important in today's world. And the medicine wheel is a representation of how we regain that balance as an individual, as a community, as a world, by recognizing that the 4 basic elementals of earth, fire, water, and air, they all have representations that create a holistic view about addressing the problems that we face in our life, that allows us to discover our own medicine and become healers of ourselves and healers of those around us through the love and positive vibrations and frequencies that we emanate as we begin to grow and expand as human beings on this earth. Environmental issues are at the forefront of indigenous activism. Thousands of fires are raging across the world's largest rainforest, the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. According to the New York Times, recent budget cuts, staff reductions, political interference, and a weakening of environmental regulations have left Brazil without adequate resources to address the environmental disasters. The Amazon rainforest has been referred to as the lungs of the planet because it produces more than 20% of the world's oxygen. This impacts every single one of us on the planet. Additionally, the Amazon is home to approximately 10 million species of animals, plants, and insects. The indigenous elders of the Amazon know how important the trees are to the planet. Additionally distressing is the fact that after thousands of years, the largest known living organism in the world is perishing. A grove of aspens in the Fish Lake National Forest in Utah. It is dying at an exponential rate as a result of human development. The 106-acre aspen grove at Fish Lake has gained fame as a tourist destination and symbol of sustainability and interconnectedness. Paul Rogers, an ecology professor at Utah State University and director of the Western Aspen Alliance, concluded that we're sort of in an emergency situation in terms of the next 5 to 10 years. He contends that the grove is on the brink of a collapse. It's dying from within. What science is just discovering through scientific study and the use of sophisticated technology, indigenous elders have known since time immemorial. The trees give us oxygen. They are the elders of the plant nations, and they are integral to our existence as a planet. It is inconceivable to destroy the world's oldest living beings for money. Hey, Hungamaheji, welcome to Stewart Indian Boarding School. This boarding school housed Indian children from tribes all over the western United States, Colorado, California, Utah. Children came from all over to attend, or they were brought from their homes, in many cases forcibly. When this school was first opened, the children were forcibly brought to the Stewart Indian Boarding School to be westernized, to be colonized, to have the savageness brought out of them so that they could be part of the Western society.
I went to 8 years of Catholic school, and that was the result of the best education that my grandparents and my mother thought that I could get, was going to Catholic school. So little did they realize that what was going to happen to the children who attended these Catholic boarding schools. And this was in Yuma, Arizona. For 8 years, they talked to us about heaven, hell, guilt, things that weren't even a concept in the Indian world. And they did this for 8 years. And us little kids, we thought it just went in one ear and out the other. Well, that isn't what happened. We internalized all that teaching that they taught to us about heaven, hell, guilt, and sin. And I was about 21 years old when I realized what impact the Catholic teaching had on me, the Christian teaching had on my psychological understanding of spirituality. My wife and I went to see The Exorcist, and doing the part of the film of The Exorcist, there was the devil came into this person that was the actress, and when that happened, her voice changed and brought into it the devil's voice. And when that happened, this fear just went throughout from my legs all the way up through my body and just exploded like that. And I stood up and got and started to run when I realized what happened to me. That it was that thing that was put inside me over all these years about heaven and hell and the devil that had caused this fear to come out, and it just exploded in my being. With true fear came out like that. And I thought, I will never do that to my children. And so from then on, I never made my children go to church. But little did I realize that we need to teach them spirituality, and that was something that was never taught to me by my grandparents, because they attended the mission church up on what we called Indian Hill. And I was even an altar boy at that mission church. So I had really internalized all the teachings that the Catholic school taught to us. But as I said, I didn't realize what happened to me until I was an adult. And I would never subject my children to that. So unfortunately, I didn't teach them how to think and be and participate in a spiritual way, their understanding of the relationship that traditional Indian people had with themselves, the land, the water, the animals, and all that. The respect for it was not there. And whereas as an adult, I did see a good friend of mine who was my same age, and he would, every morning he would get up and he would put corn pollen out first thing in the morning to offering. And I asked him where he did that, and he told me, but he said his dad did it every morning. And that's how he picked up that, internalized what that meant in his life. And I never had that in my experience because my grandparents, they didn't do that there. They were the result of what happened to them in the boarding schools. And the only thing that, I think that one of the things that saved me as an Indian person was that we had what we called cremations with our people when they passed away. And that was only, the Catholic Church did not allow Catholics to be cremated, but they got a special dispensation from the Pope to allow the Quechans, the people I grew up with, to be baptized. And so they allowed, then the Quechans became baptized, but they continued with the cremations. I grew up at a time when the priests would not go down to the cremation grounds. That was devil's place. But we did it anyhow, and the church went along with it. They just didn't go down there. Today, the priest will go down there, but he won't participate in any of the ceremonies. So, in addition to this being baptized that I went through, I realized that this applied to all the Native Americans in this country because it took us away from our traditional spirituality that we understood, that backed up the basis for how we and looked at ourselves and our belief systems in the world. So it really worked to destroy our traditional way of our ideology of how we looked at ourselves in harmony and balance with the world. Because if you look at the Christian religions, they don't teach you to respect the trees or to respect the earth or to respect the water at all. It's all a resource for them to use to make profits. And so the soul of the people was being stolen from us by an alien religious ideology, and that is what impacts us today, all the people, because we have some people who really truly believe that the Christian way is the way to think about their place in this earth, and it's at odds. It's 180 degrees away from what the reality of the Native American traditional view of the earth is. We're all a part, one part of the earth, and we're equal with every living creature. But the church never taught me, when I was a little kid, that there was an equality between all animals. But we knew it, the Indian people knew it. The church has done a disservice to us because they were disregarding our relationship to the earth. It didn't teach that. It says, keep looking outside to heaven, wherever heaven may be. And when you die, you go to heaven. They didn't think about how we needed to take care of our resources, not to poison the earth, fracking as they're doing today. So we Indian people were taken away, and many bought into the capitalistic, materialistic, profiteering model of civilization, and that's what this Western civilization is all about.
This next song that I'm doing is another song of mine that I wrote, and this song came from, the Native people have a saying that one of the most woeful sounds you'll hear is a mother buffalo that is crying for her calf that is lost in the herd. And this is how this song came. And so I start out speaking of Mother Buffalo, and then I go and talk about the missing children. And from there, I go to the missing souls that are lost out in the streets. So this is a song about our society and what we're dealing with and have been for so many years. The thing about this song is it also speaks about, the Native people and my people, that even though everything that we went through and suffered, we're resilient, we're still here. We're still here, just like the buffalo. As much as they attempted to exterminate it, it's still here too. So I gift you now, Buffalo Cries.
Have you ever heard the buffalo cry as she searches the herd for her baby? Her lonesome wail echoes in the night, but the baby does not answer, and the buffalo, she cries again, and the buffalo, she cries again, cries again. She cries again. I heard in the news of a missing child. The parents, they plead for help. The mother speaks of kindness and love. The father, he's silent with rage, and the buffalo, she cries again, and the buffalo, she cries again, cries again, she cries Somewhere in the night, a soul is lost, caught in the loss of the street. A young girl waits with a child in her arms, hoping for missing and the buffalo, she cries again, and the buffalo, she cries again, cries again, she cries again.
TMT International Observatory seeks to construct a giant $1.4 billion 30-meter telescope on a volcano known as Mauna Kea, also called the Ring of Shrines by the Hawaiian people and known as a sacred place to pray. TMT has already constructed 13 telescopes on this site, and now the Hawaiian people are taking a stand. They refuse to allow their place of prayer to be a laboratory for science. At 14,000 feet, Mauna Kea is the tallest point in the world as measured from the base of the ocean, and it has been known as the best place in the world for the study of astronomy. However, according to Hawaiian tradition, Mauna Kea is the meeting point between the universe and the earth below. As the Ring of Shrines, it is a sacred place of prayer, and the Hawaiians intend to keep it that way. They are no longer agreeable to the destruction that has been taking place on their sacred lands, and are determined to stop the construction. It is yet to be known whether the Hawaiian government will side with the indigenous Hawaiian people or the company seeking to construct their telescope. In 2017, I took an unpaid sabbatical from my position as a professor to go to Standing Rock, North Dakota with my youngest daughter. Initially, I had no intention of going to a place where human rights violations are escalating, where people are being arrested for peaceful demonstration, assaulted by attack dogs. I was encouraged by the people that showed up from all over the world to stand up on behalf of clean water and to stand in solidarity with the Lakota people. It gives me hope that we are indeed in a time of seventh generation and a paradigm shift is happening. Ceremonial practices are practices that reconnect us with who we are at the very core. It includes all four directions. It includes earth, fire, water, and air. So it's holistic, and it addresses every part of us. When we go into ceremony, we recognize that we walk on the earth. You know, in a sweat lodge ceremony, we crawl into the sweat lodge on the earth, recognizing that we come from the earth. And we're earth beings. When we get inside the lodge, the hot rocks are brought in. We recognize the grandfathers, which are the oldest beings, these stones. When we close up the lodge, the rocks are heated in the fire. They come into the lodge, and then we recognize that we're inside. We're in the womb of the mother. We close that lodge up. We start to put water on the stones. That steam comes up, and we begin our prayers and our songs. And those prayers and songs create a vibration that allow us to release the energetic structures that have gotten stuck and to reinvigorate ourselves with good vibrations and sweating out toxins in our body. So it's at a body level, it's at a psychological level, you know, when we talk about mental health and we talk about what it means to be well. And so we're clearing our mind, we're releasing, and in a way we're surrendering. You know, we may be surrendering to the things that we have been faced with in our lives. And in that surrender we find our healing and we find our balance and our center. So the medicine that we receive from engaging in ceremonial practices is medicine that happens at an energetic level. It's not something we can take a pill for. It's when we recognize that the trauma or the vibration that lives within our bodies may be causing us some problems. Maybe it may be even causing us some food addictions or some drug addictions or addictions of other kinds, you know, addictions to visual kinds of stimulation and even self-harm. You know, there's a lot of things in the world today that we're dealing with as a result of the stressors that exist in our world today. And the answers to how to regain control of our lives is not going to be found in the pharmaceutical industry. It's not going to be found in a counseling office. It's going to be found within each and every single one of us by reconnecting with the very core of who we are as indigenous beings. Body, mind, soul, and spirit.
On a poison thorn, in a dress dirty and torn, young'uns playing as the black crow flies. Mama's weeping, hear the mountains cry. There was a wild dark flower. Cold was her heart in its darkest hour. Tears on the ground where her love did die. 'Neath the bloody moon, hear the mountains cry. See the valley tremble, hear the mountains cry. Two morning doves in a cloudy sky. Oh, the wind blows weary and the willow sighs. Rivers of sorrow when the mountains cry. Grave, narrow and deep, set a jug of whiskey by his thirsty feet, and laid 2 pennies on his roving eyes. 2 women wailing as the mountains cry. Rivers of sorrow when the mountains cry.
As a college professor, I studied all the research on healing and healing modalities and what it means to be well in the world. And I was delighted to find that the research supports a return to indigenous ways of knowing in regaining our health and wellness, not just in our own physical bodies, but as a family, as a community, and as a world. It's time to return to the knowing that the earth is the nurturer of all of life. When we walk barefoot on the earth, we get minerals that come up through our body. You know, we may take minerals in the pill form because we know that we need them in order to have strong bones and strong teeth. We hear about these things, but then we also hear about the marketing of where they come from. we walk barefoot on the earth, our body is absorbing the minerals in exactly the places that they need them to. In addition, there's an energy that comes up through the earth that interacts with our ability to be still and to be present and to release stress. So if there's one thing that I could leave you with from this film, it would be the knowing within the depths of your heart, as I do within the depths of my heart, that the earth is the source of all food and medicine. It provides everything we need: shelter, water, sustenance. Anytime we're ill, there's a plant that will fix everything that we have. There's plants to help our stomach. And I would invite everybody to go on their own journey of understanding what that means. I would invite everybody to walk barefoot on the earth, to sit in silence, to sit by a stream, to sit by the plants, by some beautiful plants that they collect, and just sit. This is why when we wake up in the morning and we put our feet on the ground, we recognize that we come from the earth. When we wash our face or take that first drink of water, we recognize that water is first medicine. The earth provides everything from shelter, food, medicines, anything that we need. Even all of our modern technology is still coming from the earth. Perhaps today we might examine whether or not we've gone a little bit far with that. From a Western paradigm, the earth is considered a commodity for man to exploit for his own gain. The mind, from an indigenous perspective, is a tool in service of the creation of balance and harmony among all beings on the planet. From a Western perspective, the mind is an innovator that should be developed to its fullest potential without regard for the destruction that the invention of the mind creates on Mother Earth.
Hello, I'm Ed Breeding. Over the years, people have asked, Ed, why are you always doing the films and writing the books about the American Indian? And my answer to these people has been really quite simple. The answer is because of all the people I've met, different cultures I have been exposed to, places I've visited, many countries, different people. The ones that have impressed me the most have been the First Nations people, traditional indigenous people of the Americas. And why? Because mainly of their respect of our sacred Earth Mother and all of creation, all of the living things, and their understanding that all have spirit. Not just the human species, but all of the winged, the finned, the four-legged, all of Creator's creation has spirit. And that makes more sense to me than anything that I've ever known or even people that I've met. And no other time in our history do we need such people to help us with the times that we're living in. The division, especially in the United States that we're presently living in, to bring us together and understand we're all connected, we're all one. And I suppose the best example I can give you of that is the three amazing people in this film that have shared their stories and their amazing music with the world. They give you a great example of what I'm talking about. Namaste.